this is what we're learning today. So, I'm going to be showing you how to make some of these awesome Froppy Goggles. 9 hours to make, to sketch out the pattern, to cut the materials, to glue all of the materials together, to sand it, to prime it and paint it, and finally to seal all of the paint in. So here we start with the pattern. I just use some simple measurements, about 1.5 inches for each square, and then here I go into the headband. I mess up a little bit, so I have to go back and fix it, but that's okay since not all of us are perfect. So after I draw my shapes, I go in and draw some circles kind of to represent where I want the goggles to lay when I start gluing them. And after that, we want to cut out our pieces. So here we are going to place our pattern pieces on our piece of craft foam. I start with my straps and I use my ruler to mark where I want to cut all of the squares. Cut the pieces out and repeat for the rest of the pattern pieces. I'm not good at math, so I kind of just use this tool to guesstimate where size lens I need. This is where I mark where I need to cut the pieces on the headband, and after I cut the pieces, I use my heat gun to heat the Eva foam up and shape it with a foam head. This is where I mark where I need to cut a space to fit the strap in between the top layer and the bottom layer. Cut those pieces out, and then we will start to glue the top layer down to our previously marked places. Cut the squares for the strap and glue them down to the bottom strap. For the lenses, we shape them with the heat gun. I don't use anything round, I just take the two halves and shape them with my hands, holding them kind of in the round shape that I want them to be in. Off camera, I used my barge cement to glue the two halves together, and then once that dried, I used some quick seal to cover up and conceal the crack. Once the quick seal dried, I started to sand the excess quick seal away. A tip for this is don't use too much quick seal, otherwise you're going to make yourself have a lot more work than is needed. I start to use my Dremel to flatten out some of those edges that didn't quite align. When I cut my lenses, they were a little bit too big, so all I did was go back with my Dremel and Dremel away some of the excess so they could actually fit in these tubes. I cut out some of the pieces that will give the tubes some extra volume and shape. After I get the tubes nice and glued up, I finally glue the tubes to the base. Once the tubes are on the base, off camera I prime my piece using Plastidip. And finally, for the fun part, painting. With the painting, you don't want to rush it because you don't want those pesky streaks to ruin your great piece. All that hard work going to waste, you don't want that. After a few layers of paint later, I let my paint dry, and off camera I seal it using a clear glaze, and it adds a nice shimmer shine to the lenses. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.